Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. Dominic, your background disappeared.
It did. I reset it in case it messed anything up, or there was a Star Trek background that I guess I had
Well, that was
when I was
cool,
talking to my
and
brother.
your guitars are just as cool. Guys, help me welcome Dominic Burgess onto our show.
Hi.
Dominic has been in a whole bunch of stuff and is starring in a new show called Dr. Death, premiering on Peacock here very soon. How you doing, Dominic?
I'm good. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for being here with us. And I want to get the ball rolling right away. Your first professional credits, at least according to IMDb, which you got to take with a little bit of grain of salt,
Let's do it.
is
I know what's
Batman
coming.
Begins. All right.
It is. It is.
Now, it's amazing. Your first professional acting credit. What was it like walking onto that Warner Brothers big budget set? Was it
Oh boy.
overwhelming?
You know, let's talk about Batman Begins. It was my first job out of drama school. In fact, I auditioned for it on the day that I graduated from drama school. I rushed into central London. I auditioned with the casting director, Elaine Granger, who I think she was with Lucinda Sison at the time. And I auditioned for the role of an Arkham inmate who was going to escape, and I had scenes where I guess I was uh, coming up on I can't remember the Jack. Is it Jack Gleason who plays Joffrey in Game of Thrones? And I was supposed to be
Yes.
threatening him in the
Yeah, yeah.
audition. Um, and yeah, then I raced back for my graduation, and then I found out I booked it, and oh man, I thought I was so naive and so green. And here was little me thinking, I just graduated from drama school and I'm going to be in a Batman film.
Uh,
And they were filming about an hour outside of London in these huge hangars that I guess used to house old airplanes and
hmm
blimps. And they had built the Narrows of Gotham City inside one of them.
Wow.
And the Batmobile was right there. And oh man,
You played a
it was
cop. You played a cop.
yeah, because I went through wardrobe, and then one of the wardrobe women were like, "Wait, hold on, you're so young and fresh faced. I don't believe that you could be a criminal." And then there was a whole chain of conversation, and then I got turned into a cop, which was totally fine. Um, and then I had a couple of lines down in the Narrows, and I was so excited, and it was a great 3 days, and I got to see the Batmobile, and I got to see it was my first time seeing all this stuff and seeing the stuntmen fly up on the rig, and of course then I told all my friends. I was like, I'm gonna be in the Batman Begins. Um, and then I took like 10 friends to the Odeon cinema, and oh boy, that sinking feeling where the moment passes, where you know that you should have appeared on screen
And it's cut.
and it's gone, and I just shrank in
Oh.
my seat. But I think it's a lesson for every actor that
Uh-huh.
it doesn't. You can have the most wonderful time on set, but it doesn't mean you'll end up on screen. My name survived the credits, which is
That's
delightful, I
that's
guess.
awesome. And you know what?
Um,
The most important thing is the experience you got. Not many
it was
people
great.
graduating drama school get to be, even if your scene is cut, get to be on the set of something like that.
Yes. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience. And then I bounced from Batman to Doctor Who, and
Yes.
again it was just a couple of lines, but this time I didn't tell anyone. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't go through that again. So I kept quiet about that one until it aired, and I was like, oh, I made it. Okay, I was in Doctor Who. And it's happened a couple of times since. I did an episode of 90210, and that was all sort of cut out, and I worked on a couple of episodes of Goliath, and then that completely changed, and they went a different direction for the season, so they scrapped the whole first 3 episodes of a season. It happens.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
part of the
it's
job.
part of the job. Now, going just a little bit more on Batman Begins, it's a Christopher Nolan movie. It seems like everything Christopher Nolan touches turns into gold. Did you have the pleasure of meeting him, talking to him at all, or no?
No, not directly. It was, I think, a first AD that would relay everything. He was off in Video Village,
Mm-hmm.
and especially early on in my career. Now I'm a little more.
Well, you're a veteran
So,
now.
yeah, now I'm happy getting to set and speaking to someone directly and getting direction and asking questions. Back then, or early on in my career, I was very quiet and very timid and oh, hello, I'm very happy to be here, I'm just going to sit in this corner until you need me. Okay, thanks so much, bye. And as you grow, you gain confidence. And yeah, now I'd be asking questions and be like, can I go sit in Video Village? I want to watch.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I love to do. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, Doctor Death, I have it hasn't premiered yet. It's a Peacock show. I've had the privilege through a festival to see screeners of the show,
Great.
and it looks great. Uh, for our audience, the background storyline is about this doctor, spinal doctor, surgeon, who basically is not doing the most ethical of things in the operating room, and some people want to stop him. Uh, First of all, how did you? You have a pretty major role in this. What is it like? You have appeared on numerous projects over the course of years on a single project. What is it like booking Doctor Death and having your name like be third or fourth in the credits?
Yeah. It's uh a little it was intimidating. It was intimidating. Um, much like Joshua Jackson, I wasn't originally cast in this role. So because of COVID and schedule changes, I was going to be going to Mexico to do I don't think that's a limited series anymore. I think that's gone for a second season now. But I was going to go down to Mexico to shoot something, and that got put on hold. And then Doctor Death got put on hold, and Jamie Dornan dropped out. Joshua Jackson jumped in. Then I jumped in and committed, and then Mexico called and was like, "We're going." So it was like this domino effect of, I guess,
Yeah.
people jumping from project to project. Um, so I didn't know much about Christopher Dunch, the surgeon. So I tore through the podcast, and I play Jerry Summers,
Mm-hmm.
who is Christopher Dunch's best friend, and he helped him set up his business. He was his right hand man, and he would drive him around, and he was sort of a man behind the scenes, and he ended up offering his neck for Christopher Dunch to
Wow.
perform surgery on, and then he became quadriplegic after two terrible surgeries.
It's
And
a fascinating story.
oh my goodness, it's terrifying. It's terrifying,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when you go in for
And I've
any
had
kind of medical
I've
procedure. Yeah,
I've had three back surgeries,
you
so I can
have.
relate with how
Yeah,
terrifying it is. You're putting your trust into a doctor, and to have that betrayed is,
yeah.
you're right, it's terrifying.
It's so scary. And with Jerry being a real guy, I listened to the podcast, and in the original sort of run of podcasts, he wasn't too forthcoming. He didn't really want to talk about his experience. He still held Chris in high regard and considered him a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't reach out to him in terms of probing or asking questions or figuring out how to play him, because I thought that would be a little rude and crass for someone who'd been through something so
Yeah.
traumatic. Um, but he was this big, gregarious, loving guy, and he was so loyal to Christopher Dunch, and sort of that's the angle that I approached with Jerry in terms of playing him.
So that research that you did and talking to him really helped you get into character.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't talk to him, but I listened to
The podcast.
the podcasts and interviews, and I tried to find video footage where I could, and just through listening to who he was and how outgoing and how friendly he was, I tracked down his social media account on Twitter, and even after everything that he'd been through after becoming quadriplegic, he was still so optimistic, and he loved his dog, and he loved his care team, and he loved sports, and he was so upbeat.
Yeah.
And then during the course of filming, we were filming all of the hospital scenes, and Wendy, our script supervisor, came out from behind Video Village and said that Jerry Summers had died the day before. And he'd actually died. He died in February of this year. So it really,
Mm.
it's tough because you want to have fun and make filming a joyous process, but in the same regard, it's real people who have been through real trauma, and so you sort of have to give them the respect that they deserve, rightly so.
And when you found the news that he passed away, you said this past February, were you guys still filming at that point?
We I was filming a scene where I wake up from my first surgery with Grace Gummer, and then we were getting ready to shoot a scene where they were going to be wheeling me through a hallway to go prep for my second surgery, um, and we still had 2 more days of hospital scenes to shoot at that point, and then followed up with all the courtroom scenes as well. So it really, because up to that point in the series, Jerry had sort of been not the comedic relief, but sort of a lighter character
Yeah.
compared to all this darkness that Christopher Dunch was doing. And that really brought, uh, I don't want to, I don't want to say it helped me get in character because it's so. I would never presume to say that someone's death helped me get in character, but it really just
Well,
put a gravitas on proceedings.
let me ask you this: when you found out about his death, did you feel an added weight of responsibility to bring accuracy to the character and to do, uh, I don't know what the right word is, justice to what this man had
Yes,
endured?
yeah, and I felt that. I felt that even before going into it, and it's something that I had discussed with Patrick McManus, the showrunner, and the directors, was that I never. Jerry is big and gregarious and fun, but I never wanted to portray him as the butt of the joke,
Yeah.
or that he was naive or reckless. My approach to him was that he was so loyal. He loved Christopher Dunch so much, and he had a place and he had a purpose, and he loved Christopher Dunch, and so that was really my angle, was coming at him from a place of being this loyal, friendly guy who was manipulated. Christopher Dunch manipulated so many people. He manipulated the medical system. He manipulated patients. People were enamored with
Yeah.
him. They would
Yeah.
come in for a consultation, and he would convince them that he was the guy for the job. And I think he did the same with Jerry. He used him for his own personal gain, and I think that in both a surgical capacity and in a emotional capacity, I think Jerry was used and manipulated.
Yes, yes, I absolutely agree with you on that one. Let's talk about your castmates. Dr. Death has some great cast members. I got to tell you, it was really good seeing Christian Slater again
Hmm.
on the screen. What was it like working with Alec Baldwin, Christian Slater, and Christopher Dunch is played by Joshua Jackson.
Hmm.
Uh, Describe your experience working with Baldwin and Slater and Jackson.
Well, it's actually funny because I never met Alec or Christian, because the way that the show is formatted is sort of it splits into parallel storylines. There's present day, and there's sort of everything that's going on with Christopher Dunst from the 90s leading up to the present.
Yeah, it's told like a
Um,
flashback.
yes, and so I never had scenes with Alec or Christian. I was so excited. I wanted to meet Christian so much just to ask about Star Trek Six because I'm a big Star Trek guy. Um, and the timing didn't work. One day I thought it was going to work out, but we were going to be on set at the same time, and it was like I'm going to ask him about Undiscovered Country, and it didn't. It didn't work out, but that's okay. There'll be another
There
opportunity.
will be.
But Josh Jackson, it's so fascinating because he's such a warm, friendly, open guy, and then to see him switch on and go into sort of Christopher Dunch mode is, I mean, testament to him as an artist. Uh, he becomes very intense
Hmm.
when he's in that role, and he imbued him so well, um, that he's intimidating. He's got this laser stare, and he becomes intimidating, even though Jerry's his best friend. Um, there's still that line that Jerry won't cross with him. He
Yes.
comes close to telling him how he really feels a couple of times, but right up until the end, Jerry defends him. But yeah, Josh he was so great, and he was a new father at this. I mean, he's still a new father. Um, he and his wife had just had a baby, and we were filming in the middle of a pandemic, and so the circumstances of filming it were very much come in, do the scene, and then separate
Yeah.
to your own little space and keep your distance from everyone else. So
It-
it was a very odd experience, but so warm and so wonderful. And Anna Sophia Robb and Grace Gummer,
yeah.
yeah, wonderful.
I mean, casting Joshua was perfect because he plays that, the way you described it, charismatic, can sell ice to an Eskimo. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it was a great, great casting choice. Let's jump ahead because you mentioned you're a Star Trek fan. What was it like when you landed on Picard?
Oh my gosh, what
Now,
a
for me, my
dream!
favorite Star Trek, I'm a Star Trek fan too,
Uh-huh.
but I grew up with the Next Generation, the Picard
Mhm.
gang, okay?
Yeah.
A lot of people, the older generation, were with the original show. But for me, Picard. I
Uh-huh.
mean, a lot of people, James T. Kirk. For me, it's Patrick Stewart and
Uh-huh.
Picard. What was it like getting onto Star Trek Picard?
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, I've loved Star Trek for so long. I think my brother had made me watch Wrath of Khan, and I'd seen Star Trek 3, and I'd seen Voyage Home. And then I remember back in England, Next Generation would play on Sky One and BBC Two, and so I would race home from school and I would do my homework while that was on in the background. Um, and then Voyager was really my Star Trek because
Yes.
because when I got into Next Generation, it was sort of already in semi syndication where it was on every night
Hmm.
of the week, and so you didn't have to wait for cliffhangers
And
or
it
anything like
actually still is. That's how popular it is.
that. Yeah. I mean, it's still a go. I was watching Best of Both Worlds last night while I was waiting for Loki to start up at midnight. But yeah, Voyager was my show. That was the one that I watched from pilot to finale as it
Mm-hmm.
aired live, and then I would have to wait for the cliffhangers, and it was exciting. And yeah, That's my Star Trek. And so then when I found out that Jerry Ryan was going to be on Picard as well, and I would have a scene with her and Patrick Stewart, and it was going to be directed by Jonathan Frakes. Oh man,
Oh,
my
Riker
geek
and Picard. I mean, I can
exploded.
imagine. I can
It just
imagine.
and just sometimes you walk onto a set, and especially when you're sort of a guest star actor and you jump from show to show, sometimes you get to set and you read the environment and you realize, oh, this is a show where I just sit in my chair, I don't talk to anyone, I keep my head down, I know my lines, I'm going to go do my job, and then I'm going to go home. And Star Trek was so warm and welcoming. I went for the prosthetic fitting, and then they were like, "Do you want to meet Jonathan Frakes?" And I was like,
Hell
"Uh,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I have bits of latex like pulling off my face, but sure, let's go meet him." And they took me to the dining room. They were on lunch at the time, and in the middle of the dining room, Jonathan Frakes just stood up and was like, "Dominic Burgess, welcome to the family," and just
And Jonathan is he's a big guy. He's an overwhelming, intimidating figure.
so warm. He's one of those warm, open, friendly people, and he just exudes so much love for Star Trek
hmm
and working with Patrick. And he ran the most joyous set. It was someone's birthday. I don't know if it was the DP's birthday or one of the camera guys' birthday. And after every setup, he would start the charge in singing Happy Birthday. We must have sung Happy Birthday to this guy maybe 12, 13 times that day.
Wow.
He just keeps a warm, upbeat, friendly set. And it was just a joy. What a joy.
Now,
Just,
Jonathan and Patrick, they have known each other for 30 plus years.
Mhm.
Did you see them interacting? I mean, they must be really good friends.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And what was so wonderful was that we were filming in a nightclub up on Universal City at City Walk, where they sort of made it look like Stardust City and dressed the set, and it would have been so easy for them to have been dismissive, or for them to, after each take, to go and find a quiet corner.
Yeah.
And between takes, we would just sit in the booths of these nightclubs, and Jonathan and Patrick would just reminisce about old stories. And Patrick asked about my background and was like, "I'm from Stoke-on-Trent." And he was like, "Ah, Stoke-on-Trent, the old Vic Theatre." And, it was, they were so warm and welcoming that, yeah, you just,
I would imagine it's hard to put into words. Just
yeah,
seeing
and
those
I handled
two.
it very well because
Yeah.
inside I was like, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh," but outside I was very professional.
Yes. Let's go back to Dr. Death for a little bit. Do you think the
Sure.
actual real story is a lot scarier than what can be portrayed on the screen?
I read something earlier on about the show that I thought, oh, that's a great way of putting it. In one of the articles, someone described it as, in the 70s, Jaws made people scared to go in the ocean, and sort
Yeah.
of, and now Dr. Death is doing the same for surgeries, where it's giving people pause and second thought. And I think, sometimes I think it's interesting that NBC Peacock is doing this, because they have New Amsterdam, and there's Grey's Anatomy on ABC, and all these medical dramas where the doctors are the heroes,
Yeah.
and you feel like you're in good hands, and everyone's going to be fighting to save your life. And in the surgical bays, they'll keep doing CPR for 2 hours until that
Yeah.
person comes around and they can reunite the family. And this is not that. And I think I don't know if a dramatization can ever match what has been done in real life, to answer your question.
Yeah.
But it's terrifying to think that this happened, and it could be happening somewhere else, or it could be happening in another country, or
Yeah.
that even in England, we had our own, I guess, Dr. Death, that you would call him, Dr. Harold Shipman, who again was responsible for, I think, gosh, maybe even hundreds of deaths.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it is a terrifying thing to shine a spotlight on, but I would never presume to say that a show is scarier
Yeah.
than what's done in real life.
I think real life is much more scarier than what we see on TV. I think that's why a lot of us turn to TV for an escape from real life. Would you say, Joshua's character, Christopher Dr. Dunce, would you call him a narcissist, a psychopath? How would you classify him?
You know, it's interesting. We had this discussion on set many times with Patrick and Josh. Um, and I think what's great about the show is we it's impossible to get inside this guy's head,
Hmm.
whether it was a god complex where he really thought that he was better than everyone else, but he just didn't have the technical skill, but
Yeah.
he really thought that he did. Or if he got into that operating room and he really knew what he was doing, and there was this need or desire to hurt people. It's a really fascinating character study or question to ask, and I don't know if we'll
Ever
ever
find?
know
Yeah.
this. I don't know if Christopher Dunch will ever take ownership
Mm-mm.
for what he has done. Which again is, I think, is terrifying in itself, that people can move through society like that and be in those positions of responsibility.
Yeah.
Um,
And use their charm and charisma and have
mhm.
people just follow them. That's a scary thing.
Yeah.
Now, Doctor Death is premiering tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, I don't know if I know when Disney streams stuff, it's sort of midnight West Coast time, but it's sometimes on Hulu. When it's Handmaid's Tale, it's 9 o'clock East Coast. It's out tomorrow.
Yeah, it
Whether it's
varies.
nine
Yeah,
or
yeah,
midnight.
it varies from streaming network to streaming network.
Uh,
The what I have noticed is they like to do it simultaneously. So to at least in the United States to make sure they include the whole country, it will be released like I'm on the East Coast. It will be
uh-huh.
released somewhere between 3 to 5 a.m. to make
Okay.
sure they cover the entire United States.
Uh-huh.
Now, I've never gotten the privilege to talk to someone where a brand new show is premiering literally the next day. As an actor on this show,
Uh-huh.
you guys, I've seen it. It's a great show, but what are you feeling the night before the premiere? As an actor on this show, are you like, God, I hope this does well? Do you
I
have
hope it does.
faith that it will? How are you feeling right now?
It's hard because I haven't seen any of it at all.
Wow.
I just got back from filming in Puerto
So
Rico.
I've actually seen more than you have.
You've seen more than I have. I went in maybe a month ago to do some ADR, so I saw snippets of scenes, but that was in a work capacity to sort of hide airplane noise and things that were happening in the club and whatnot. So you know more than I know. So again, I don't think it's going to be a Batman Begins situation where I don't see the light of day.
No,
Um,
no, no, no.
so that's nice, at least. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's always exciting. I think when you're an actor, you hope that people respond to your work and the the jobs that you do. Whether it's theater and you're feeding off the live audience, or whether it's TV or and film. Um, yeah, in an ego-driven way, it's nice to have people enjoy your work, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. Now, because this is based on a real story, well, inspired by real events, and it is a TV show. This is not a movie. Very not. I don't want to say rarely, but it's not often we see a television series that is based on real events. Uh, do you know? Is there a lifespan on this show? If it does as good as you guys hope it does, is it going to be a limited series, or is it? We're going to keep going until.
I don't think so. I imagine that this just lives in its own sort of limited 8 episode arc. I know that there is a second season of the Doctor Death podcast that focuses on another Doctor. Um, so if it were to move forward, I think it would operate like an anthology series, like American Horror Story, where each season
Is different.
focuses on a different story. Um, I'm not sure if I think Peacock were planning on doing a documentary alongside it. Um, so maybe that will go hand in hand with it. But I think the story is told in as much as they want to tell it
Okay.
uh, in those 8 episodes. Yeah.
Now, as an actor, do you like the idea of just moving on from character to character and not let's say it does take the route of American Horror Story and becomes an anthology, but as with American Horror Story, they keep bringing back the same actors to play different characters. Now that's appealing. As an actor, do you like the idea of doing different characters and not getting stuck playing one character for an extended period of time?
It's so funny that you ask this because I was talking with someone else about this earlier on today. Um, we filmed Doctor Death over 6 months in New York, and like you say, normally I'm an actor that will go from job to job,
Hmm.
and I will bounce from Sunny in Philadelphia to Star Trek to The Magicians to The Flash or Good Place, and sometimes I feel like I'm a squirrel foraging for nuts that I've got to take every job that I can get because I don't know where the next job is coming from, and I've got to sort of save up and yeah, look for work, and it was so hard for me to adjust when I got to Doctor Death because it was 6 months constant work, and in those first couple of weeks, I felt like I should be looking for what's next. We started filming in October, and then I was already thinking like, but what about April? I've got to start thinking about what I've got to do in April. And it took a while to get out of that mentality and just
Enjoy
sit
the
in
moment.
and enjoy the moment and enjoy the work. And then, by the time I got to March and we only had a couple of days of filming left, then that old mentality of like, okay, now what's next? Now it's got to get back into survival mode. It's yeah, it's a real different feeling. I'd done Feud and I'd been on Ant Farm for an extended period of time on Disney. Um, and it is nice to have those moments of, oh, I can relax and I've got a
Yeah.
job and I know what's going on for the next few months, and that's really nice. Um, but yeah, like right now, I just finished this job in Puerto Rico, and now I landed back in LA, and I'm back onto like now what, which I enjoy too, and I've been so fortunate to play such an eclectic range of roles. So I enjoy it. I enjoy the process. I enjoy being an actor. I love
Of
it.
course, of course. Now, you said Doctor Death. You guys were shooting it during COVID. Did you guys, because of the timeline, did you start before the shutdown? Were you already shooting during the shutdown? There was no interruption?
We started in October, so New York was pretty much shut down. I live in Los Angeles, and I flew to New York, and um, I was very safety conscious. I didn't want to be the guy responsible for shutting down a set, and so
Yeah.
I walked everywhere. I didn't go into subways or in bars or restaurants. Um, and we had a shutdown just out of an abundance of precaution. Um, we shut down for 2 weeks in November, um, where
Things
there was
started ramping up again. Yeah.
yeah, so we shut down just around Thanksgiving for 2 weeks, and then we came back, and then it was Christmas, and then we came back, um, and went straight through till March. But yeah, it was an odd experience. It was odd to experience New York at that time, with Broadway
Hmm.
being dark and
Yeah.
everything being quiet. I mean, it was kind of lovely in a way because I'd never experienced New York that quiet, and so you could sort of walk out onto the streets early in the morning, and it would just be eerily silent and beautiful. There was snowstorms while we were there, and I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and venture out, and beautiful.
I was born and raised in New York for 23 years, and to see I live just outside of DC now, but
Uh-huh.
my family's there. I own my childhood home there, and to see pictures of Times Square completely empty, I'm like
Hmm.
I never thought I would see the day where
Yeah.
it's literally a ghost town, and
Hmm.
that's how scary it was. Now you had the opportunity to work on them. How would you describe that experience?
Great. Again, I was fortunate enough. The director of my episode, Nelson Cragg, I knew from Feud. He was a DP on Feud, and
Hmm.
now his career has progressed, and now he's directing. And so, yeah, he reached out to me and was like, "Hey, there's this role," and I love horror, and I hadn't had a chance to do a whole bunch of horror, so I was like, "Yeah." Immediately, or any kind of time that there's a period piece or something that I've never done before, never had an opportunity to do, or if it's in a location that I've never been to before. There are different things that attract me to jobs. If
Yeah.
it's, like, yeah, I'll go to Puerto Rico. Yeah, I'll do a horror film. Like, I'm still waiting. I'm still chomping at the bit to do a Western. Anytime there's science fiction or horror involved, I'm probably going to be like, yeah, let's go. Um, Yeah. So, knowing that Nelson was involved, and knowing that it was going to be a horror piece, and yeah, it was a no-brainer to say yes to that.
Now, another horror that you've been a part of is Deadcon. How did you become a part of the Deadcon cast?
That I think was just an audition that came in. I know Jessica Sherman was the casting director on that, and it was a low-budget
Mm-hmm.
film. And she very nicely approached and said, "Hey, there's this. It's a low budget film. It's not going to pay very much." And again, it's like one of those things where, depending on the job, if it's a low budget film, I'll still do low budget films and
There
short
have been some
films.
amazing low budget films.
Yeah, I'll absolutely do those. To an extent, depending on what it is. But if someone calls and says like, "Hey, will you do 3 days on this thing?" It's like, yeah, 3 days is nothing. Of course, I'll go do
Yeah.
that. It's just down the road in North Hollywood, Burbank, Pasadena. Absolutely, I'll do it. It becomes a different story if someone's like, "Hey, can you do our low budget film? And we're filming in Sacramento, and it's going to be 7 weeks, and get yourself there and Airbnb yourself." And then it becomes a different conversation.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I love working. I'm at my happiest when I'm on set and I'm watching and I'm learning and I'm meeting new people and learning new skills. So I'm very working with Alfred Molina on Feud. I asked him if he would do a short film that I was gonna write and direct. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm a bit of a whore when it comes to work." And sort of I've sort of taken that mentality of like, "Oh yeah, I get it. I love working."
And you mentioned Feud because that's exactly where I was going to go to next. What was your favorite part of embodying this historical figure on Feud?
Oh my gosh, so good and so different to Jerry Summers. I was aware of Victor Buono's work uh, from the original Batman series, and he was a voice in one of my favorite childhood cartoons, Flight of Dragons, and uh, that was a very different experience because there were so many live performances of his to draw from, whether it's Batman or in interviews and talk shows. And his nephew reached out to me and shared old photos and stories. And so I was really able to embrace that role sort of openly and
Mm-hmm.
sort of joyously. Again, he was this big, larger than life character. Um, and that it was a real joy and a real, oh my gosh, what a treat to get to meet and work with Alfred Molina, who is, since I first seen him in Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Yes.
and being a British character actor, seeing the trajectory that his career has,
Yeah.
continued to be in
Explode.
Doc and just wonderful, wonderful performances. And I've seen him live on stage, and just someone who you look up to as an artist, and to be such a wonderful human being as well, is just the best.
What was it like? Ryan Murphy and Jessica Lange were also involved in Feud.
Hmm.
Now, Ryan Murphy is the creator of American Horror Story, and of course, for like the majority of the seasons, Jessica Lange was in every season of
Hmm.
American Horror Story. What was it like working with those two?
Great. I well, I was. It was one of those situations where I was a little intimidated at first because Ryan is he knows exactly what he wants. But after doing the first scene with Susan, where I meet her with the donuts, he came out from behind Video Village and he gave me a hug and he said, "We're going to have so much fun." And then, the nerves sort of melt away. And yeah, just again, just one of those joyous, once in a lifetime jobs, I think. And then, like I said, I asked Alfred if he would be in this short film that I had written. And then I directed that. Alfred did it. And then I used the short film to jump onto Ryan Murphy's director mentorship program.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was able to go and shadow on 911. And while I was shadowing on 911, we had a call to say, "Hey, are you free to just come and do an episode of American Horror Story on Monday?" So I was like, "Yeah, I've just been shadowing the director all this week. Okay, cool." And so I went from shadowing the director, and then he jumped onto American Horror Story on Monday, and I was there on set. And he was like, "Wait, you're not shadowing on this show too, are you?" And I was like, "Nope, today I'm one of your actors." Um, so they call it a family. They say like, "Oh, you're part of the Ryan Murphy TV family," and it really
That's
it
an
feels
honor
like,
right there.
yeah, to get to sit and watch and shadow the directors as part of that world too. Yeah, really, just wonderful. So many wonderful things have um, blossomed from Feud. I did a horror film, Ma, down
Yes.
in Mississippi, and that came from Feud, where Tate, the director, had seen Feud and called and was like, "Hey, put yourself on tape for the role of Stu," and then went down and met Tate and John in Mississippi, and that led to another film, and now I've done the directing on Ryan Murphy's half director mentorship program, and started directing. Now I have a World War II feature film in development with those guys in Mississippi, and so you
Connections,
know
connections leading to more and
yeah, and
more
everything
stuff.
just starts to grow, and you meet more people and like-minded people who just are kind and enjoy working. And yeah, I'm very, very grateful and very blessed. Yeah.
Staying with American Horror Story for a second, you were on an episode. You have obviously, like you said, worked with Ryan Murphy. What is the atmosphere like on the set of? What were your impressions of the set of American Horror Story with the actors?
Uh-huh.
What season of American Horror Story? You were on Apocalypse, right?
Yes, I
Yeah,
think.
I
Yes.
love that season. Uh,
What I think the day that I was there, um, I think they'd just done some rewrites at short notice because they asked me on a Friday to go and do it on the Monday, or maybe my days. It was falling on a day that an event was happening for the Emmys, and so a lot of the cast were going off-site
Yeah.
to do that. But it was a great set. We were filming down at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery down in Hollywood, which is, if anyone's in Los Angeles, there's a company called Cinespia that will do Hollywood screenings of cult classic films, and they will screen them on the side of the mausoleum, and you can take a picnic. And I think they have Scream and Scream 2 coming up for Halloween, like really fun stuff. So to be filming there uh, was a lot of fun. And yeah, I'd been shadowing Bradley the week before, and so it was a nice, fun, even though it's gory and messy.
They keep it
Anytime I get to,
lighthearted. They keep it lighthearted.
yeah, it's fun. I think every show has its own sort of tone and feel. I feel like you said, I've gone from set to set to set. Um, you learn very quickly what sets are the ones where okay, I'm sitting down and I'm keeping my head down and staying in my lane, and the ones that are open and embracing of, outside actors coming into their playground. And I think it starts from, the number one and number two
Hmm.
of the show, of the call sheet, that sets the tone. Um, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I would think going on to a set where everybody's, open and welcoming, instead of, like you just said, going on to a set where you've just a feeling. I mean, that nothing
Yeah.
needs to be done. Just the feeling is just go there, keep your mouth
Uh-huh.
shut, do your job, and then, end
You
the
know,
day.
the sets where you get there and everyone is warm and open and they want to collaborate and they want to do the best work. For me at least, that's where my best work comes
Hmm.
out, is when I feel like, oh, okay, this is a safe environment
Yeah,
to play and experiment. And if I've got this idea for a scene, I feel safe to try it, rather than, some sets which will remain nameless
of
are,
course.
are
Yeah,
not that.
yeah.
I've had on one or two examples where it has been a really unpleasant experience,
Hmm.
and you get home at the end of the day and you shake it off.
Yeah.
Uh, and okay, that happened, but it's not on. I think sometimes actors sort of carry around like, oh my gosh, I must have done something wrong, and often it's not the case. It's not on you. It's
Mm.
someone else's issue and their problem, and
Yeah.
you go and you do your job, and
Put it behind you.
yep.
Now you're from the UK. You're
Mhm.
living in LA now. Uh, you went to drama school in the UK.
I did.
Which how long have you been in the US now? Like living
Gosh,
in LA.
14 years. I got here in November of 2007, just as the writers' strike was starting,
Oh.
which ended up being wonderful for me. I mean, terrible for the industry at the time. But again, I came and I was so wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and naive that I was like, here I am in Los Angeles, and I'm a member of British Equity, so I'm sure I'll be able to do SAG projects. And nope. But yeah, it was the writer's strike, but it ended up helping me in a way because casting directors had nothing to do. Nothing was being cast, nothing was being made. And so I'd had the experience of working in London, and I would be lucky in London if I could get an audition maybe once every 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And then there's that pressure there that, like, oh, I've really got to do my best in this audition, and if I don't get it, I'm not going to get another chance to do an audition for another 5 months. And because of the writers' strike, all of these casting directors were teaching classes or having general meetings to meet new actors. And in, I feel like in 3 weeks of being in LA, I'd met more casting directors than I had in 3 years of being in London.
Wow.
And, the writers' strike went on for a while. And I met so many great casting directors the first 3 or 4 months that I was here that really I think it was beneficial. A lot of people left town because it was like there's nothing going on. And I was like, well, I'm here. I'm going to get a day job at the ArcLight movie theater, and I'm going to start meeting people. Um,
I mean,
yeah,
I've spoken to a lot of filmmakers, actors, and this really surprises me. There doesn't seem to be that much, I don't know if opportunities, even financing available for filmmakers, especially in the independent industry in the United Kingdom. And that, as an American, that really surprises me.
I think the industry has changed since I left. When I was in London, I found the industry to be very inaccessible and very hard. And I'm sure, everyone is going to have a completely different journey. You could put 20 actors of the same type in a room and let them meet the same casting directors and the same creators, and everyone's going to have a radically different career. London wasn't my city, but
Hmm.
as soon as I got to Los Angeles, I felt like, oh, okay, I'm meeting people and I'm auditioning, and this is what it's supposed to be. And I didn't have that in London, and I know I have friends from America who've gone to London, and they've had the opposite experience where they can't get work in London, and I've had friends come from the UK to Los Angeles, and they've not been able to meet people, and it's I think acting is still a mystery. It's
So professionally, moving to LA was one of the best decisions you could have
oh
made.
the I the best the best decision I could have ever made. And there have been ups and downs. And um, again, when I got to LA, wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, I was on something called an O1 visa,
Hmm.
and I thought like, great, I have a visa, I can work on anything. And I auditioned for Tintin, that was directed by Steven Spielberg, and I think I auditioned in July, August, and they told me in September that I booked it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I booked Tintin. This is great. It's going to film in February, and it's going to be motion capture, and I'm so excited. And December came around, and I went down to Marina Del Rey, where the studio was, and they did the Weta digital scan, and they fitted me for the motion capture suit and the helmet. And I went home to England for Christmas, and then Christmas Eve, I had a phone call from Paramount saying, "Hey,
Oh,
uh, we don't take O1 visas.
oh,
We're gonna try and get you our own visa." And then that job went away, and
that sucks.
there were multiple jobs on the O1 visa that I wasn't able to do, that I auditioned for and I booked, that I wasn't able to do. Um, and then I applied for my green card. My first green card got rejected, and so then I had to save another $10,000 again to do the second green card case. And it's been a slog. And now,
Yeah.
April of this year, I became an American citizen.
All
So
right.
now if Steven wants to come calling again, he
You
can.
are available. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh! But what a
Oh,
nightmare at the time. I think every actor's career is. I think that's what acting is. It's incredible highs and incredible lows, and like I was saying, foraging like a squirrel because
you
you
don't
don't
know
know
what the
what's
next job
next.
is or when it's coming.
Yep, yep.
Dominic, this hour has just flown by. It's been an
It has.
abs.
It's an hour already.
Yeah, yeah. It's been such an absolute pleasure talking to you guys. Dr. Death is premiering tomorrow, sometime tomorrow. We don't know exactly when. We're still trying to
Tomorrow.
figure out how the streaming networks do it. But it is coming out Friday, July 15th, which is tomorrow. Uh, I've had the honor to see the first couple of episodes. It's a really good show. It's based on real events. Please check it out. Dominic is great in it. Alec Baldwin is in it. Christian Slater, Joshua, who plays the doctor. So check it out. You're not going to be disappointed. Dominic, thank you so much for being a part of our show and sharing
Thank
all your
you.
stories with us. Uh, really looking forward, and I really believe Doctor Death is going to be a big success. Uh,
Who knows? But
I mean,
Onwards, wherever the road may lead.
exactly. There's no guarantees, but I really think it's going to be a success, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming here and sharing all these great stories with us. Thank you to our audience for tuning in. Any final thoughts you want to share?
Uh, no, thank you so much. I see all these little comments on
The chats, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
side.
yeah,
Hi,
yeah,
Colette. I wonder if he lived near me. Maybe. I'm from Stoke-on-Trent.
yeah.
So if I talk to my parents over Skype, then the old Stoke-on-Trent accent comes out to play.
That is so awesome. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe. On behalf of Dominic and myself, stay safe and stay walking. Good night.